Hello and welcome from my side. My name is Ralf Ginzinger and I'm Vice President Consulting of High Coordination Group, but I'm also a Senior BI Consultant for over a decade, and I'm really looking forward to show to you a little bit about IBCS and commenting with TRUECHART. There is 3 reasons why you might be here today. Primarily, I think the IBCS keyword has probably triggered you. Maybe you have heard about it, you're familiar with it already, or it's something entirely new to you or your organization. Might also be that you're mostly interested in the commenting piece as a direct positive possible impact on your existing BI infrastructure. But as we all know, webinars, the third reason might be that you just need some background noise to answer some emails on a Friday morning. I hope that our content is interesting enough that number 3 will not be the primary reason for you to be here. So let's start with IBCS. IBCS is an acronym for International Business Communication Standards. And if you don't know what it is a standard developed by Rolf Fichert and Jürgen Feist, because there is an urgent need for standardization and financial reporting. The IBCS organization worldwide had over 2,000 members, and it includes a large practices for report development and the success framework. A little more to that later, because now you might ask yourself, why is there an urgent need for standardization in financial reporting? Well, let's just look at some examples. And we don't have to find specific ones. If you just Google management dashboards, what you'll find looks more like an art gallery than any kind of standardized reporting. And I know Google, of course, we might find something that's not really relevant. So let's take a real life example. This is an official view from Tata Communications, and let's have a look at it and try to find out if we can find out what this dashboard is about. So when we first look at it, we see it's built what you could call in a fancy way. We have a lot of colors, we have a lot of visual elements, eye candy. So you could argue that it looks nice, but let's imagine that we need to find out something now about the content of this dashboard. So there are a couple of questions that are very hard to answer. For instance, what is this piece showing here? What is this donut chart showing? And it actually takes quite some time, and I'll help you, and I cut this short because this is gross revenue. The only reason we can guess that is because in that boomerang we have the term gross revenue. And if you see, the time perspective is hidden on the right bottom corner. It's Q1 of fiscal year 2017. Good luck finding that out when you're in a hurry. It's a year-on-year comparison, so we have 2 donuts, and the price question here is, which one is which year? And you can only assume or guess. And as soon as the words assume, guess, or believe start pop up in your head when you look at the dashboard, you know that something's utterly wrong with it. But let's continue the journey. We have the use of color here. Green means IPL in this chart. Green means hosting in this chart. Green means TCPSL in this chart. And to make it even more complicated, in the data services chart, which is not a pie chart, even though it looks like it, green, the 76% is actually EBITDA. So maximum confusion, and you really need to get into the chart in order to understand what's going on. There is a template, there is a philosophy in other professions that actually managed to get standardization into reporting. And we just have to look at sheet music, for instance. For hundreds of years, musicians all over the world, they agreed on a specific notation, on a semantic layer, on how to communicate a very complex piece of information without any room for interpretation, fast and easy to understand. Now you could argue, okay, musicians, they're a couple of hundreds of years advanced to us, to reporting, maybe we'll catch up until 2400. But there are other professions that managed this equally well. Electricians, engineers, architects. So a lot of professions, they understood the importance of standardization, because errors in communication in these fields lead to dangerous errors, maybe death, injuries, or at least to embarrassment. And at least the last point, embarrassment, is also something that could happen here, or taking wrong decisions based on information that you don't understand. Luckily, the IBCS organization has given us some tools. It's called the Success Formula, and it's a couple of topics that help you guide through the vast possible optimizations that you can do and help you to understand how to make reports more understandable for you and your target audience. It's grouped in a couple of different topics. This is not going to be an IBCS training, but we just touch it from the surface. There are conceptual rules that you should always convey a message and organize your content in a logical way. Then we have perceptual rules. So you have to increase information density to ensure the visual integrity, choose proper visualizations. There is more to choosing a proper visualization than just how much you like it or how good you think it looks like. And avoid anything you don't need to transform the message. All the rules that I've mentioned so far, this has been discussed for more than 20 years. Stephen View, Edward Tufte, Barbara Minto, all of those bright minds, they have written books about it. And this has all been around for decades. The main reason the IBCS organization, and we think this has not been enough to make sure that it's really applied as a unified standard, is that it was missing a semantic notation. And semantic notation means the same thing have to mean and look always the same. So when you have an actual value, when you have a negative deviation, when you have a highlight, you should always immediately recognize it without the need of a legend or anything like that. Some examples what this means. So for instance, in the check category, one of my favorite rules here is avoid cutting access. It's misleading in 99 out of 100 cases. So equal and correct scaling is really important to not confuse your audience. Avoid gauges, speedometers, and actually chart types that present one value, because usually that's not enough. Looking at the example, Berlin and Paris both are in red, but if you look at an alternative visualization that takes the equal amount of space, you see that Berlin is actually in the uprise and Paris is still going down. Same amount of space, but a lot higher information density using proper chart types. And as I said it before, the semantic notation is the key difference. So the IBCS standards suggest to have 4 different ways of visualizing financial scenarios: actual, previous, forecast, and budget. Actual being black, previous being gray, as it is kind of an older version of the black one. Forecast being a part actual and a part budget or estimate is hedged. And then we have the budget, which is a white area and a black border. I'm explaining this to you because in the live demo that we're looking into, you will immediately recognize those 4 definitions and you will understand everything I'm going to show you later more easily than you probably understand your own charts right now. As I said, there is a lot more rules to it. Actually, I think it's close to 150 rules. You can get that as a poster. There's a more condensed version of the top 10. There's also books that have been written, the standard books and the newest one, Gefüllt, gerahmt, schraffiert, which will be available in English shortly. And if you really want to get into it, there is not just books, but as I said, there is an association available under IBCS.com. They have a lot of material for free available. And there is also workshops and trainings all around Europe available for you. Now, we said that there is a lot of benefit in applying some sort of standardization in your reporting. And we figured it out back in 2011, where we said the BI tools that we are using, back then it was primarily ClickView, we cannot apply those standards easily. And if you cannot enable an organization to apply a standard easily, the standard will not be used at all. So we started developing an extension called TRUECHART. And this extension is something that I want to go now into some detail, explain you what it is, and show it to you also live. Now, first of all, TRUECHART is IBCS certified. There are a lot of tools out there claiming to be IBCS ready, or whatever they want to call it. If you want to enable IBCS in your environment, make sure that you check for the BARC certification for IBCS. And for the Click crowd of you guys, TRUECHART is part of the extension of the Trusted Extension Developer Program, which just means that Click is giving us some muscle in saying, yeah, this extension actually makes sense, it's working, and it will also work with future versions. So, what is TRUECHART? In one sentence, TRUECHART enables faster, better, more informed decision-making across the entire organization by fully enabling IBCS in any corporate environment. I really like that sentence that marketing came up with because it kind of summarizes very well what it's about. And I'm not going through a huge, intensive slide show with you. I just want to summarize it and then we'll directly jump into the live demo. So with TRUECHART, we have four major pillars in terms of functionality that we support. We have, of course, the IBCS charting engine, meaning IBCS certified. We can do everything the IBCS standard is asking for. We have an advanced visualization wizard, which allows you full flexibility in building up the content that you want. We have a cross-platform template library, which I'll show live later on, meaning you can transform content from one BI tool to another using TRUECHART. And our, would almost say, most famous feature, the report annotation and commenting system, which you will also see in color and live in a minute. Last but not least, again, for the Click crowd, you see we have a very close bond to Click, as this has been our roots for several years. It also contains a Click enhancement pack, which you'll again see in the live demo. In order to showcase TRUECHART, there is different demo applications that we have. The one that I chose is an application we built a couple of months, sometime last year, the year before last year, for a challenge that Click gave to its partners in the central part of Europe, where they said, build the best application you can. And it was a challenge for all the partners. And I'm happy to announce that with the application that I'm going to show you, we won first place with the application that we built in the category of application using extensions. And we built the whole application entirely with TRUECHART, which I'm going to demo to you now. I'm going to start in the app overview and moving to the full screen of the browser. So we are still in Click, but we use it on full screen mode. So there is several different modules. We'll touch base with any of them briefly. There's a finance module, a sales, HR, geoanalytics, and a help and feature guide. This demo is also available on www.truechart.com in the demo area if you want to play around with it yourself. So let's start with the finance sheet, because this has already a lot of topics to cover and to show. What you see here on the top on the left is this Click enhancement pack, the menu bar extension. I'm not going into a lot of detail here. If you are a Click customer and interested in these functionalities and think, hey, hell yeah, I want to have something like this in my application as well, just give us a heads up, and we'll do an individual session with you. So what you see here already is the notation, the semantic notation of IBCS. We see our actuals here. It's a P&L. We see how these actuals, according to a waterfall, are built. We have revenues, we have costs, we see our net income here. We have the previous year value as a reference, just as the value. We have a forecast here, and we have the delta to previous and the delta to forecast, and its impact on the net income. So we see it compared to previous year, we are plus 1.3 million ahead of last year, but we are 2.7 million behind forecast. Primarily because drink revenue has not had the uprise that we were forecasting for, even though we are above last year. And this is how correct visualization with proper scaling helps the reader to understand the message that you have immediately. Of course, as we are in a modern BI tool, we can do selections, we can look how the P&L would look like for the German entity, where we see there is a quite different result here. We see that the scaling changed now to 1,000 euros from millions to get in, as we are in a lower level now. We see Germany is actually ahead of forecast, even though they had a similar situation in the revenue, but they were able to cut costs more efficiently. So this is, again, why the proper scaling, using colors in the right way and only when necessary, so red and green only for deviation, really helps understanding the message. But as I said in the beginning, it's not just about IBCS, it's also about commenting. And for us, the commenting piece is not just some nice feature to add to a BI environment, it's as important as the data itself. Because if I present this to a manager, and you probably know this from your own experience, this is not a management reporting yet. Because telling someone that we are 2.7 million behind forecast is not helping at all. Because they want to know why, what has been done, who has been doing what in order to fix this. Have we been aware of this? So the commenting piece makes your guide analytics report in BI so much more valuable. So in order to fulfill this need of commenting, we implemented this commenting functionality. There is an SQL server in the background. There is real-time communication between all different kind of applications. That's some technical stuff. If you're really interested in this, again, hit us up and we'll do a session to show you exactly how it works. So right now, for instance, I want to comment on my August result, and I say here, this here is an actual critical development, not as planned. Of course, you would hope that your comments are a little bit more helping than what I just put in here, but this is how it works. Now, this comment is available to anyone who can access the application. Behind the logic behind being able to edit comments, view comments, there can be a full process of your typical management or weekly, bi-weekly or monthly reporting process of only within a certain time window you can edit comments, and only after comments have been reviewed and or consolidated they are visible to anyone else. So again, it's a technical side to that functionality that I'm not going into detail. Just be aware that this is possible. Comments are linked to data points. So this comment here now is for January to August 2018 overall. If I go back to July, for instance, so the previous month of this data set, I see that there are already other comments that have been added. So you as a developer or as an organization, you decide how this whole commenting process works here. What you see here is an example of very high information density. So we have here 3 charts where you even have to scroll on my smallest screen size here with a very high information density. You have 3 tables: sales representative, product group, and the customer, where you have year-to-date, January to July, with a lot of different scenarios and time perspectives, full year analysis, and a deviation chart as a waterfall. Of course, everything is fully flexible. So the business case here, you would look at where does this 0.2 come from? How does it look like? Which products are involved? What's the time period? How much of this is still forecast? And yeah, you get the the message. Of course, our selections are here fully maintained in the menu bar, and it's actually doing what you expect it to do. TrueChart is an extension which works perfectly in combination also with, in this case, ClickSense, but also with Power BI standard visuals or other custom visuals. So this view should just show you're not restricting yourself in any way when you use this extension. There is one more way of commenting. We've seen the inline comments or table comments. But there is also something called the perspective comments. Here we see two different ways of visualization. We see a visualization according to the IBCS standards, but as TrueChart is not an IBCS tool only, but it is a design tool and a function and a group of functions that is added to the BI tool that is IBCS certified. We can also drastically divert from the IBCS suggestions and build whatever we like with all the functionality. And here for July 2018, I want to add another comment where I actually want to comment on the fact that we have 20 staff that have a bachelor degree. I just type something random in. Same applies as for the inline comments, which means I have an editor here. These comments are linked to the data points that I've specified. And the difference here is I can do an annotation, meaning that I can generate one of these bubbles and link those bubbles to the actual results, which helps the controller, the creator of the report, and also the recipient of the report to understand better and clear what exactly I want to tell them. Now, Geoanalytics, this sheet here should indicate that we, and TrueChart, in this case with ClickSense, is fully compatible with also other extensions. So whatever selections we're doing here, I think my Wi-Fi is just failing me now in loading the map. But as this is not about Geoanalytics anyway, I'll just give you a quick heads up and then we move on. Just saying we can also interact properly with other extensions as well. And we cannot just have TrueChart build IBCS visuals and commenting. There is a vast number of technical features that you can rely on. For instance, one small example is that you can integrate iframes, so any part of a web page, into your BI tool of choice. In this case, we chose a very simple example where we said, look, we want to have our TrueChart help and feature guide linked into the application. It looks like being a part of the application, but it actually is not. It's just a link. And there is a vast number of features or ideas that you could execute with that. I'll show you one of them as a last example here in this webinar. So just imagine you have SAP or Salesforce or anything linked in here, the web page, and you have your analysis here. You do some selection and find out, okay, there is something I want to do now. And let's say I select breakfast foods, and the integration of other web pages can be fully flexible with dynamic links, and I can still edit here, which means the business case of having Salesforce in here. I've selected a customer where I've seen that the revenue distribution is not ideal or that there are no activities planned anymore. I can directly change that. And combining that with reports that you understand properly, with commenting that tells you what has been going on, which measures have been taken, and why the situation as it is. And then the third piece of the process, by having the actionable items also in the BI tool, you can offer an experience to the target audience that they don't have to change technologies, that everything is in your platform. This concludes the live demo. If you like what you see, you can contact us to get an individual session. We are also very happy to do POCs, show you with your existing environment how one of those sheets could look like with commenting or with IBCS visualizations. And the last thing I actually want to show you before I hand it back to Chris is we talked about cross-platform, and I want to show you how fast it is possible to build a chart like this in 2 environments. So what you see in the background here is an empty Click Sense application where within a minute my ghost hand is now building a chart using a template. The reason why I'm showing this to you is because a lot of questions that we have received is, yeah, this all looks nice, functionality is great, but are we able to deliver this? And if you have no idea what's going on in the background, you still understand that the time it takes to build it is very reasonable. And if you are a Click developer by any chance, you immediately understand the steps necessary of taking data in. Now we select a template, and now from these templates, combining multiple different predefined charts and mapping it to our data. At the end, we have a dashboard that is fully working, and IBCS, applying the IBCS rules without any active design decisions taken, meaning that regardless of who is building it, it's always looking the same, it's always applying the standards, it's fully governed, and as you see here in the background, we have the commenting functionality available already. And as I said, this is not just available for Click, so to round this off, let me show you how this looks like in Power BI. So you see also here, different client, but the look and feel and how you operate in Power BI is exactly the same as soon as the data is in the TrueChart object. So my colleague here that has been doing this recording is doing exactly the same steps as I did in Click. He's applying a template, he's combining different templates now to get to the message. It's exactly the same dialogue, it's the same UI. So if you have done training or experience in TrueChart for Click, you don't need any update training to be able to work with it in Power BI, except that you need to understand how to work in Power BI in general. And I was not sure if I'm going to show this in this webinar, but I think I owe this to some of the participants. We've been talking about TrueChart for Excel for quite some time. It's on the horizon for 2 or 3 months now. We are now a couple of weeks before the release, and therefore I chose to give you a little teaser of how TrueChart in Excel looks like with a very concrete example, and also explaining why we think that TrueChart for Excel is such a big deal. Imagine you have a BI environment of 100 users that you paid for, and in total, and they work with ClickSense or with Power BI, and they're super happy and they do commenting and everything else, but you have 500 more people that you need to comment on your P&L or comment on whatever, and you want them to understand the data as good as in Click. So the good message is the TrueChart license is regardless of the technology. So everyone, every license allows you to use TrueChart in any environment. And I'll show you one example of a random Excel file that I've built up, which is not connected in any way to our Click environment. So just imagine this is your export from your ERP system or from anything else. There is your analysis, all the stuff that you know and love about Excel, especially the controllers. And at the last sheet, there is something called P&L with TrueChart. This is not an embedded version of what you've seen before. It actually looks different. It's the same P&L with the same data, but it's its own object maintained entirely in TrueChart. And you already see here the commenting piece. And now the great thing is both are connected to the general TrueChart service. I can now switch between those two applications. And I'm feeling like a magician now, preparing my trick. So what you see here is we are in July 2018. We have now breakfast food selected, which doesn't make sense for my example here. And we see the overall comments, acceptable, we did okay, hello from Click. If we go in here, we did okay, acceptable, hello from Click. Now let's type something in here. reconciliation, hello from Excel. I save it. In the second I click OK, this comment is now available in all platforms that have the same data available. So if I go back to my TrueChart application, I don't see it right away because for ClickSense we have to do a refresh, not a reload, or we have to navigate between sheets to request the data again. I just hit F5 now to refresh the data request. And what I will see now is that this hello from Excel for reconciliation in July will be part of the comments. So this is just a very small teaser about how Excel will integrate into the existing tool set that we have. We're really looking forward to it, what you guys and what our customers and anyone is doing with it. We see a huge potential in getting the IBCS. Here we see it. Hello from Excel. How cute. So for us, this is going to be a huge enabler to make sure that an organization that wants to enable themselves to do IBCS on a broader scale, we are aware that most, if not everyone, is using Excel at least as a second option, and having the possibility to have an integrated solution with Power BI and Click and Jedox in terms of shared templates, shared comments, is a huge step forward to enable IBCS. These are my closing words. Thank you very much for your attention. We stop the recording now and will accept questions from you.